So far, the candidates that I have spotlighted are Farrah Clark, Dory Brown, Carl Booker, Miss Cleaver, McKee Rodriguez, Darden, and Dawkins. Is there anyone who has not been spotlighted that I'm missing? Because sometimes people come on and their name is listed different. All right, then we are going to start. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak to the class. And remember that these are persons who are looking to perhaps work with you on your campaign and hit the ground and do grassroots. So we're going to rotate it, as I said. The first person we're going to start with is Farrah Clark. And just so everyone will know, all of the candidates from District 2 were invited to come speak. So, Mr. Clark, you'll go first, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. And also I want to say thank you to the students for being on and being engaged and wanting to know what's going on in this race. My name is Farrah Clark. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a community advocate. I spend my time trying to address the needs and the illnesses of our community and make it a better place for all of us. Most notably, recently, I had a lot of involvement in the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on over the summer. And we were able to push for a lot of change, including we were able to put an end to no-knock warrants, end the use of police chokeholds. We were able to advocate for the creation of the first ever civil rights investigation division in the district attorney's office. We were able to create mental health response units in our police departments. So we did a lot of work over the summer and trying to address some of those needs, as well as some of the more socially, as well as some of the more economic needs. We were able to feed thousands of families over the summer during the crisis of COVID, as well as have been very active in taking care of the community during this recent blackout event that we've had by delivering waters and food and different supplies to our senior citizens. This is the kind of work that I do in our community already. And it's the kind of work that I want to continue to do on a larger level as a district council representative. And so I hope that if you agree with some of my views and the way that I handle things, that you could vote for me as your District 2 representative.
All right, thank you. And you gave time back. All right, the next person up is going to be Ms. Brown.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Boyd and Mr. Rangel, for having us on today. My name is Dory Brown. I've been here. I'm not originally from San Antonio, but I've been here since I was 10 years old, so I consider myself from San Antonio. This is the second time that I've chosen to run for city council. Me talking about myself is like the worst and hardest thing for me to do, because I'm one of those people that devoted to serve others in whatever capacity that I can. And I've always been that behind the scenes person. One of the reasons I'm running, I've chosen to run the first time or chosen to run again, it is truly for my community and how I can elevate myself in serving the community. I am a taxpayer and homeowner. I'm a single parent. I have a son that's 11. He's in the 5th grade. I've served on the board for, the Claude Black Community Center, for Queen of Soul, as well as some other things I've done. People, whatever, however people need me and they ask me to be there, I'm there. And so I do realize the things that happen in our community, in our city, how it affects our district, it affects me as well. Having been a business owner and wanting to have my business within District 2, finding a place to set up an office was really shocking. Trying to find a decent professional office building, and I ended up at the bank building. And next door to me was Ruth Joan McClendon's office. And I ended up working for her for 2 years I was just gonna work a couple months because one of her staff.
All right, that's
sick.
time.
Okay, so I'm Dory Brown.
All right, the next person up is, I think Mr. Booker stepped away. So the next person up is Ms. Cleaver.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So guys, my name is Nika Cleaver. I am extremely excited to represent District 2. I have been very, very, very active and involved in the community for the last 10 years straight, no breaks. I have been feeding the community, clothing the community, just serving any need possible. And that's, again, for 10 years straight, whether it's youth, the elderly, or small businesses. I've created platforms. I created the Black.
I should throw away yours.
I created East Side. East Side.
I'm sorry, just one moment. Let me pause for one moment, please. Everyone, please mute yourself.
I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I just didn't know what to do with it.
Just one moment.
It's specifically Galaxy J7 Prime. He's unmuted.
All right, Galaxy. Who knew this would happen, right? Things always happen on Zoom. Let me find out who it is. There we go. All right, I'm sorry. You still have 1 minute and 21 seconds.
All right. So I have been serving the community for a very long time, for 10 years. Most recently, of course, with COVID, March 2020 is when we got locked in. In the first couple of months, we did over 6,000 plates of food given out to the community, and that has not stopped for any that the need is. I create platforms. That's what I do. Black Business San Antonio, East Side Chamber of Commerce. We've created all of those to help broaden the knowledge and the opportunities for our small businesses. My relationships are incredible. People enjoy working with me and we can get things done. Work with the DA, and we actually put together a community panel, also helping with the civil unit that they're doing. That was actually strictly the DA, but we were there to help push it forward. I work with the police association. I work with current council members, current mayor, current city manager, you name it, the sheriff, the constable, whoever runs this city. I have a relationship already, and we have worked together to get things done. Part of the team that got Juneteenth as a recognized holiday, and later on a paid holiday for San Antonio employees. So it's not against my nature to stand tall for the people, to fight for the people, and to continue to work for the people. And I'm excited to represent and be proactive in our community.
That's your time. All right, everyone, if you are not part of the panel, I'm going to ask that you please mute. Trust me, you will have a chance to ask them questions. Everyone, just be sure to put your question in the chat box. The next person up is going to be Mr. Jalen Rodriguez.
Hey everybody, I'm Jalen McKee Rodriguez, and I'm a 25-year-old high school math teacher at Madison High School. I moved to San Antonio almost 8 years ago to attend UTSA, and I'm getting ready to graduate this summer with my master's. And fun fact, I was actually Rowdy the Roadrunner from 2013 through 2016. Now I'm running for city council because I believe we deserve regular working class people representing us, people who feel the impact of the decisions that they make on the dais. And as someone who makes a teacher's salary and as a member of marginalized communities, I will feel the impact of every decision that I make. Also, I want you all to know, to this day, San Antonio has not had a council member born in the 90s. If elected, I would be the first. And every generation is represented by our government except ours. We deserve quality representation. And people our age are standing up and making the choice to run. And we aren't doing it to make a statement. We're not doing it to make a point. We're doing it to win and to be our own voice. I'm one of the youngest candidates in the entire election cycle. And there are 59 challengers in city council elections, excluding the mayor's race. And I have outraised all but one. I am in a legitimate position to win this race. And I hope y'all see that the work that you're doing to get into your field is going to be worth it. Your voice will not be discounted. There is a place for you right now. My campaign manager is 25. As a teacher and as a former council aide who has served in the district I'm running to represent, I know that interlap of where my students and families' needs and the services City Hall provide meet. We have grandmothers who have to be the sole caretaker of teenagers while working when they should be retired. We have parents who send their children to school on unpaved roads with no streetlights or sidewalks at 6 a.m. And we're still finding the bodies of people who froze to literal death just last week. City council is where policy meets people, and I'll be a councilman who recognizes that.
Thank you. All right, the next person up is going to be Mr. Darden.
Thank you, Judge Boyd. My name is Norris Tyrone Darden, born and raised here in San Antonio, specifically District 2, product of San Antonio Independent School District. Went off to college and played football and ran track. Received my bachelor's in criminal justice and my master's in special education. And since 2003, I've been an educator using my special education certification in the classroom, and then moved on as administrator here today. I'm in my 18th year. Let me say this, I'm happy that you guys are here, that you're interested, and that you're willing to be engaged. I can say at 41, I was not born in the 90s, Jalen, but I do understand the benefit of young people. I still feel like I'm young, but the benefit of young people being engaged. So I won't spend too much time on myself. What I'll say is this, I'm not that young or old, but I do have Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and a website. So Twitter at Team Darden, YouTube at Team Darden, TikTok at Darden, FORDIST 2, and then Facebook at Darden for District 2. My website is www.teamdardensa.com, and then teamdardensa@gmail.com is my email address. So I heard you guys want to get involved. Guess what? Find Tyrone, call him, and at the end of the day, he will answer the phone. So that's enough about me. You might have some questions later on, but I will say this, there are 12 candidates running this race. If anybody's been following anything that I've been saying, I'm proud of each and every one of them. It's not an indictment on our community. It is a celebration of how much we have to offer in our community. And so we all deserve support. So please, please reach out to somebody. But again, call Tyrone. Thank you, Judge Boyd.
Thank you. All right. The next speaker is going to be Mr. Dawkins. And Mr. Dawkins, if you can unmute, please. Let me see. I just sent a request. There you go.
Okay, good. Hopefully you can hear me. And Tyrone, I'm going to be looking for you on TikTok tonight. Anyway, I'm Chris Dawkins, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you, Judge Boyd, and thank you to the students. I am running for District 2, but more importantly, I want to talk to you as the students. I think it's very important that you get involved in something like this. It really has to be something that you want to do from your heart, because all of us can tell you that this is a thankless job. There are not many people who will really thank you for what you do. And most of us that I can say have been involved in community service, and being involved in community service, there's nobody really around to thank you. You just have to do it because you feel the calling and you really want to do it. So for myself, Chris Dawkins, I really hope that you do get involved. It is something that is very rewarding, but it's normally rewarding for just you. I want to talk about District 2 and the unique opportunities that are in District 2. First of all, District 2 is 56 square miles, which is roughly about the same size. Just our district is about the same size of San Francisco. We have a very large district. We've got 44 parks, we've got 3 libraries, and about 170,000 people that are in the area. So there's a lot of opportunities. You've got Fort Sam that's here, a lot of diversity that's here. You've got all type of ethnic groups. There's a number of different things that you can get into. So find what your passion is and become involved. If you don't call Tyrone, call Chris Dawkins. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next person up is going to be Miss Villanueva.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Judge. I appreciate the invitation. And good evening, everyone. I am Christy Villanueva. So I am a mother and a wife. I have 2 children, 29 years old and 16 years old. I have a brand new driver out on the street. So that's enough reason to run right there, because I have a 16-year-old that's ruling the road. But more seriously, I had to resign from my position. I was formerly the president and CEO of the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. Prior to that, I've worked in construction for many years. And I was also, back in my younger days, as you are in your 20s, I was a paramedic and enjoyed my time. So at the end of the day, always serving the people. I just recently came off the Via Metropolitan Transit Board with a successful campaign. I also serve on Mission Heritage Partners, which is a fundraising group that serves the missions and helps with the UNESCO project here in San Antonio. And then I'm also an honorary commander with the 502nd Air Force Wing. So I work with the military on a regular basis. Truly, I moved here in 2010, immediately went into service working with small businesses, and then transitioned into a small construction company to work as a project manager, to actually run projects here locally and help serve the employees, those laborers, the skilled labor group, and help them move forward, because many of them are those that don't make very much money. Some are below the poverty level, and I wanted to do more for them in addition to building something. Second to that, I got involved with the military because I have family members who are also in the military. The biggest thing at the end of the day, and you'll never meet, I don't think, another group.
I'm sorry, that's going to be time.
Thank you.
All right, so I believe that we're only allowed to have the number of people in the boxes for spotlighting. And since this is about District 2, I'm going to remove myself from the spotlight so that Mr. Booker can be spotlighted, so you all will know who Mr. Booker is. All right, so Mr. Booker, you're up.
My name is Carl Booker. I am the owner of Avista Products, producer of Black Video News and the Black Book. I've been working in this community for over 27 years. We are a provider of services, creative services. We also are champions of small businesses throughout San Antonio, but my commitment to District 2 has been over 27 years. One of the reasons why I wanted to run for office was the pandemic and some of the issues that we faced. You know, I was looking around not only for my business, but others to find out how we could be of more service and help. Leadership just wasn't there. And I'm not a fan of complaining. I'm a fan of doing something about it. So instead of looking around for others to do it, I decided to step up. In addition to that, I have 2 grown daughters, and you know, just looking at their lifestyle and what they're experiencing, you know, they're kind of lacking leadership in their community. Jalen is around their age, so you know, there's definitely a future leader in that. But you know, how do you find more people? How do you even address a pathway to success? You talk to someone that's been successful, and that's typically how you're going to do it. But one of the things that is important to me is to first listen to the community. I have a lot of plans for the community, and you can go to vote Carl Booker for d2.com to find out more information. But that comes second, only to what we find out is going on with the community. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know. I can go in there with a lot of plans, and the community doesn't want to have nothing to do with it. So we want to address the needs first. So one of the biggest things that I am familiar with, and Pharaoh's a big champion as well, for police accountability. I want to say that's one of the top priorities.
All right, time.
Okay.
All right, so we've heard from all of the parties with their thoughts and their platforms. Now we're going to take questions. Each candidate will be given a minute to answer a question. To all the people on, if you could put your question in the chat box, that would make it much easier for us to get through it. And so Judge Rangel is going to take over for this first question. And it's from Katana, and she says, in District 2, 25% of the population is below poverty. How will you lower that number once in office? And I'll turn it over to Judge Rangel. And Judge, I'll keep time if you want me to.
Okay. All right. And so I'll just kind of go in order here. That's an excellent question. Mr. Clark, we'll let you answer that first.
I would work with local businesses and try to provide incentives, whether they be tax-based or otherwise, for companies that are willing to pay their workers above $15 an hour, so that our people could start to see living wages that can actually handle households. We know that a lot of our families are struggling due to the fact that they're making below the poverty wage, and even with two incomes at that level, it's hard to maintain a household. So we would work with local businesses in the district to try to make sure that they're meeting that minimum wage of $15 an hour. And we'd also like to work with bringing in other businesses and incentivizing them to offer jobs strictly and directly in District 2, so that when we have these companies that are coming into our district, it's our residents that are benefiting from them versus the employment coming from outside of the district, where our own residents are not benefiting from the factories that are right here in our district.
All right. So again, each of you have 1 minute to answer. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for falling within that time frame. Ms. Brown?
In working on that, some people know what we call about generational curses. There's generational ignorance. There's a lot of people who just don't know. I have this thing about babies making babies. Can't teach babies anything because they are already a baby. They don't know. We have to come to a way where we can have maybe like a mentorship program where we can tell people that it's okay to learn. It's okay to think outside the box. Don't think of yourself being nerdy or, for Black people that you're doing something white. You're trying to do something to inform yourself, educate yourself so that you can bring yourself. We have a lot of programs that are out there, even with Workforce Solutions, that people don't take advantage of. So we have to bring some type of way to bring it to them, show them the benefit of it, because some of these people don't have cars. You can't expect them to go to the resource. We have to bring the resource to them and show them the benefits. We may have to start in the high schools.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Cleaver.
Okay, there I go. Education and opportunity. Education is the key factor. Of course, we have trade school programs. St. Philip's has a robust trade school program. We have other trade school opportunities, but we also want to make sure that people are aware of them. GED programs, adult literacy programs, and of course, tackling our youth as they get out of high school. We have an Alamo Promise program that gives free schooling, free higher learning and college and junior college education for absolutely free, and it's available for the next 3 years. So we have to make sure we have 100% people signed up for that program. We increase adult literacy programs, the GED situation, and give more opportunities. Crime and this situation as well. Poverty also often happens when people don't have an opportunity or they don't see other opportunities available. So we do have to bring those things to them, educate folks on all the different ways they can be excited about it, and be proactive about involving folks into higher education.
Thank you for that answer, Ms. Cleaver. Mr. McKee, sorry.
For sure. So what it comes down to, poverty really comes down to the opportunity gap that exists in communities like ours. We need opportunities, and I would advocate, one, for a livable wage beyond $15 an hour. There's no reason people should need to work multiple minimum wage jobs, and our city is very fearful of challenging preemption. We have amazing businesses and entrepreneurs and creatives who need opportunities, and I would facilitate the procurement of city contracts for minority-owned small businesses in D2. I would also work to incentivize the development of recreational activities in San Antonio, because we deserve movie theaters, shopping centers, bowling alleys, but we don't have that. And that would create countless jobs and opportunities for work. In addition, we do need to increase access to pre-K 4SA and invest in our school programs and trade programs so that we can prepare our children for the future starting now. We have so much to do, but these are a few of the things that we can do.
Thank you, Mr. McKee Rodriguez. And Mr. Darden.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. So I'm not going to be an echo chamber and repeat everything that everyone has said, because what they're saying is spot on. Education, information, opportunity, training, all those things are the correct responses. What I would add to that is constituent services. So at the end of the day, if the people aren't connected to all those opportunities, guess what? It's all for nothing. And that traditionally and historically has been what's going on. Jalen mentioned pre-K for SA. The pre-K for SA site is on more of the northeast side, which means that the higher need on the east side is not being met. So at some point, we have to connect people to those resources. We have EDSI, we have the workforce development, as Dory said, but we got to connect people to those things. So constituent services is the number one thing to add to what everyone else has said. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darden. You guys are really making me miss being on the campaign trail. I'll tell you what. Mr. Dawkins, you're up.
Yes, sir. And again, I echo all of those things, but the only other thing that I would say is I would say that we want to make everybody in District 2 an investor and invest in themselves. We start there because there's some people who want it, there's some people who don't. We find out those who want it. We help those with the programs that were talked by each and every other candidate that preceded me. And we find out what they want. But I want to find out those who really want it. Those who want it, we can help them get it.
Thank you, Mr. Dawkins, for your answer. Ms. Villanueva.
Thank you, sir. Well, all the candidates, as other people have said, are spot on. We need to bridge the gap for all people of all ages across the district and throughout the city. The interesting thing is we have a number of great resources within our district and within our city, but some of our previous elected leaders have put up barriers. So our neighbors cannot get access. So as an example, you might go to Workforce Solutions and you're going to go to the one in our district, but then you have to figure out how to get transportation to get the rest of the services outside at another office in another place. And that just doesn't work. We should have what we need within our district. The second thing is building up those small businesses again. They are the most flexible. Small and medium-sized businesses have the most flexibility for our neighbors to be able to hire them, train them. There are grants, there's money available for them, and we need to do this.
Your time has expired.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villanueva. And finally, Mr. Booker.
I want to say in reference to that, there is no one blanket approach. I believe every person has its unique challenges. Like a lot of things in life, you often have leadership, whether that's a family member or someone in your household that you can look to for mentorship. So as an example, if someone is in need of housing, mental health, they need to know what those channels are. So what works for me doesn't necessarily work for the next person. Whether they have the education or not, the knowledge gap is the most important thing, because we can assume a plumber and a CPA might have a different mental capacity, but it starts at home. They're going to need a place to stay. They're going to need a place to eat. All those things are important to get them out of poverty. Once we can tackle that, then I think there will be an asset to not only to themselves, but to the community as well.
Thank you, Mr. Booker.
All right, and for our next question, we're going to start reverse, and it's going to start with Mr. Booker. And it has to do with current situation. And let me find the question. It's what would you do to solve the problem with the grid? And I think we all know what we mean when we say the grid, as evidenced by some of us being without power or water. So Judge Rangel, if you could do it in reverse order, please, starting with Mr. Booker.
All right, Mr. Booker.
Environmental, that's what it sounds like. I'm a big fan of solar energy. I'm a big fan of atmospheric water. I'm also a big fan of hydroponic farming. I'm also a big fan of aquaponics farming as well. All those things are off the grid. If everyone has access to solar, if they had access to their own water, this snowstorm and its effect will not affect them at all. These opportunities are somewhat affordable. If you look at the scenario of providing solar and water, it's a one-time fee of $40,000. Some people have cars just as much as $40,000. So imagine if you had an air conditioning unit and a water unit, and of course a solar unit at your home, you would not be affected by the grid at all.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Booker. Ms. Villanueva.
So there are a lot of elements that come into play when we talk about the grid. Probably the most important thing is to hold these folks accountable all the way down into the local level, our current CPS, our city council, other elected officials. There are a number of things that should have been done. The tragedies that we experienced should not have happened. Moving outside of that, we currently have several plans. The SA Tomorrow and the Climate Action Adaptation Plan have some very key elements to help support environmental opportunities for all people, no matter what level of income they have. We need to capitalize on providing energy, any sort of electricity, heating, and what have you for our community as a whole. We've got to do more. We've got to step up and help our neighbors. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Villanueva. And going in reverse order, Mr. Dawkins.
Good question. First of all, I will say it's a state issue. It's not a local issue. Even if our CPS who if we wanted them to do something, they are a part of the Texas grid, which would prevent them from doing anything. One of the things that could be done, or that I think that should be done, is that CPS should also have local districts, just the same way that we have local districts in some of our other organizations around town. So there's nobody from District 2 to support or to advocate for District 2 except on council. And I think that that's something that could be done. I would like to fire whoever's in charge of ERCOT. They need to be fired. Number two is that winterize all of those plants, whether they be fossil plants or whether they be solar plants. I have solar panels on my house and I do believe in solar. So there's a lot of things that could be done, but mainly this is a state issue.
Thank you, Mr. Dawkins. Mr. Darden.
Mr. Dawkins, thank you for that springboard, because what you said is basically how I'm going to respond, but a little bit different. I agree that it's not a city council per se situation, but I think being an elected official, you have to learn how to leverage that position. And so it was obvious that the council members, the mayor, even the commissioners and the judge really had no clue what's going on. That shows you the disconnect that we have in our different levels of elected leaders. So for me, I would like to see more of a fluid line of communication between all levels of elected officials here in our state, local, county, and statewide, because there's no way for all these things to be impacting the residents when nobody knows what's going on. And so for me, and I'm pretty sure everybody else will have some great ideas, but how I would attack this situation is, number one, the people responsible for it have more information. So when people ask what's going on, they'll have an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darden. Mr. McKee Rodriguez.
Yes, so we definitely need to push our state leaders to join the East, West, or both sides of the country's grid. Right now, they are holding us back, and I'm ready to work with our state leaders to push for that. We also need to winterize our infrastructure, including solar and wind energy. And we need to improve our disaster plans on a city level. That's something we can do right now. We should have had warming shelters ready. We should have had teams ready to do wellness checks. And who picked that up? Community members. those organizations who led mutual aid efforts. And if the city was going to mess up on such a grand level, they should have recognized their errors sooner, communicated that, and supported the organizations who are on the ground already, rather than trying to find photo ops and opportunities to get on the news every other day. And I'd say also the committee that Anna Sandoval proposed to investigate the response failures now includes people from city staff and council members when they were the ones who messed up. That committee needs to be made up of community leaders who are on the ground.
All right, thank you, Mr. McKee Rodriguez. Ms. Cleaver?
Yes, so you cannot necessarily control things that are not in your power. And so this is a state level situation. However, the city dropped the ball. Unfortunately, we spend well, not unfortunately, but every day we get a 6:30 update on what's going on with COVID. I know for a fact that people knew that we were going to have a tough week as far as our winter and our temperatures were going to be. We should have gotten more safety tips, more things to take care of our house, ways to let people know to get the elderly and folks into different homes so people aren't traveling on ice, the warming centers, the food centers set up beforehand, because there was information that you didn't know, that you knew. So at the end of the day, even though you might not have control over everything at a certain level, you do have control over things on a city level, and that's taking care of your citizens. And you should have prepared your citizens as best you can, and then been out there during the storm, not when it's 68 degrees and everybody's electricity is back on. What were people doing during the storm?
Thank you, Ms. Cleaver. Ms. Brown?
And addressing this is there's so many things that can be done better. One of the things, they say they want to fire everybody, they want them to resign. Yes and no on that. When those people leave, they leave with the knowledge of what's going on, what could have taken place, what could have been fixed. So those people, they need to be accountable. They need to be there. So as they're giving their, say, 3-month timeline to get out, they're passing the information on that they knew for the person who's coming in. One of the things that we could have done on the local level is we could have utilized like our schools, our elementary schools, whatever school is in the neighborhood. So those people who don't have transportation, those that are on dialysis, they need electricity, get them to the schools, have something set up where we can have generators in those facilities to help those people that they can continue their dialysis or whatever else that they need at that moment.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And finally, Mr. Clark.
Thank you. Like many of the other candidates, I agree that it's not in the city's purview to actually handle or address that issue. However, where I feel that we failed at is in not being prepared. They had from February 8th to plan for this, and all the way on February 14th, we still got caught behind the ball. I feel that we should have had the warming shelters in place ahead of time. We should have had the winterizing of our equipment. We have to make sure that we're not putting all our eggs in one basket when it comes to how we deal with energy. We need to make sure that we have all available resources in our city ready to go at any moment's notice. CPS should have had enough generators to back up whatever system they had that was failing. So I don't like pointing fingers. What I will say is that if I was the city council member when this took place, there would have been planning. We would have had a community response team in place. We would have had everything we needed stocked up, ready to roll out.
All right, time. All right, the next question for all of the candidates is, how do you think we can enhance District 2 without evicting our own people who already live in the community?
That's an excellent question. We're going to start in the middle this time and sort of circle around, make sure everybody gets an opportunity to speak as early as they can. We'll start with you, Mr. McKee Rodriguez.
Definitely. So I think one of the biggest things that's stood out to me as I've researched council races in the past and as I've looked into the history of our district and in the city of San Antonio is that our council members have been bought by developers. the developers get to pick and choose every single council member, and that, you know, they get their way with the land in District 2. They get to put up their high-rise luxury apartments and push out the neighbors and push us out of our homes. When what we really need, they get to put up gas stations and car washes everywhere with no concern for what we actually need. They're making us a pit stop, not a destination that we deserve to be. We deserve things that are for us, that are going to help us, that we can work in. Movie theaters, like I was talking about, the shopping centers, bowling alleys. These are things that my kids have said, you know, we're only out here because we don't have anything else to do. Where do you want us to go? And I think that's one easy thing, is that kind of development.
All right, thank you, Mr. McKee Rodriguez. Ms. Brown?
I'm sorry, I was distracted there. But one of the things that has been kind of curious to me, I do want to see the neighborhoods, the neighborhoods development, but we also have to help the people that are here already and see what's going on with their houses, their homes, how they can have that pride in what they value. If they value it, I think the more you have, the more rental income you have versus home ownership, there's a lack of, they don't care because it's not theirs. And so we got to get back. I know, you know, generations before us, you know, had homes. Yes, I came from being my mom on assisted living to homeowners to me being a homeowner, because that's how I was raised, you know, that it was there. I'm glad that it's there for the people who need it. I want to encourage the people to have more.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I am impressed with the slate of candidates available to District 2 this cycle, definitely. All right, next we'll go with Mr. Dawkins.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I can address this. First of all, I think this is a question that really helps to define and separate us. I am for development. I definitely am for development in our area. You can really take and make affordable housing and make it in such a way where you're not pushing people out of their homes. There was a program in the city of Pittsburgh where they took a place like King William District and put low-income people in there with a federal program called Hope 6. And the way they did it, which I thought was very novel, and I think that all cities around America should adopt it, is in a way where you're not making it affordable housing, you're making the housing affordable. So those banks and different people that work with affordable housing, they're buying down the rent as opposed to trying to
right, that's time.
Let the person pay a lower amount of money for it.
Thank you, Mr. Dawkins. Mr. Booker.
Tic-tac-toe here. What I believe when it comes to for the housing, I think it needs to be creative. The place where I live right now is an abandoned warehouse. We have several elementary, middle school, high school buildings that are vacant. That is an opportunity for folks that are in need of housing. They could go there. So understandably, if you're in your home and if you're over 65, your taxes are reduced. If you are prior military, your taxes, depending on your disability, if you're 100% disability on your military, you don't pay taxes. So it's a knowledge gap that we want to consider.
I was just going to try to do the self-cleaning.
Excuse me. Whoever is there, you need to mute.
I need to learn how that works.
And I believe that's Cassandra Littlejohn.
Zoom call. How you doing?
Hi, you need to mute yourself. All right, I'll give you extra time.
So yeah, again, it just depends on the creativity, this process on how do we handle housing. There are some opportunities, you know, in my building as an example, who would ever thought you would have this many housing opportunities in an abandoned warehouse? These opportunities, along with developers, are going to be required if we're going to take care of this community. We have assets. Let's use them.
All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Booker. And we'll go to Mr. Darden.
Thank you. So just trying to just bring something fresh, because again, everybody has some great ideas. For me, the number one thing is inclusion. So what does that mean? In District 2, homeowner associations are next to non-existent. Neighborhood associations, when it comes to the engagement with leadership, they talk to them, but they really don't give them that. They don't allow them to be the voice that we need. We've had homeowner associations, neighborhood associations have to take the city to court to sue them to get their voice being heard. So inclusion is one. Inclusion on another level, our boards and commissions. Who do we have on, the zoning board, the housing boards, all these different boards? So inclusion. And I'll end with a third inclusion. Just the community as a whole. How often does the elected leadership go to the community and ask them what do they want? How often do we have town halls outside of when we're running for city council? So inclusion would be to add to everything everybody's saying, inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darden. Mr. Clark.
The way that you get the much needed development while tackling the issues of gentrification, in my belief, for this. One, you have to create 10-year to 15-year tax freezes for the citizens that already own houses in District 2 so that their taxes don't continue to shoot up with the development that's going on around you. You then shift that cost onto the developers that are building up the new buildings. If they're coming in and they're building and they're making the money off the district, they're the ones that should incur those extra taxes. On top of that, you provide tax incentives for those developers that are going to come in and build and provide affordable housing. And you provide tax incentives for those that are going to create jobs and allow their development companies to hire people within the district to rebuild the district. And what that does is it also creates money for the district because the residents are able to feed off the development that's happening instead of what goes on now where outsiders come in and feed off of us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clark. Ms. Cleaver.
All right, so we want to develop it. We do not want to push people out. So yes, we work with third parties, other business, big corporation to offset extra prices and high rising taxes. We actually work with developers and actually talk about developers want to make money. And yes, they've used District 2 as we're going to stop, build and go, but they want money. So if they can talk to somebody and know these are the buildings that we want to refurbish, these are the businesses we want to bring back, these things we can get you your money back and you can make your money where you're happy, the community's happy. So again, including everybody in the process, working with developers from the beginning to the end, and actually creating things in the district that people want and that are affordable for people to use. And I do want you guys to know that affordable housing is being built right now in District 2 on several streets. And we're actually working with a company, some developers, to actually develop some housing for homeless people. So the work is out there being done. People are working towards bringing affordable housing to District 2. It is happening right now.
Thank you, Ms. Cleaver. And finally, Ms. Villanueva.
Thank you. So my opinion is that balanced zoning, education, and outreach, those are the things that are needed for our neighbors. We have such a vast variety of neighbors. We don't ever want to put anybody out. But we also need to stop the inconsistent zoning. What can happen in District 2 isn't happening in District 7 or District 3 or others. So we need to have that consistency with our policy. The current neighborhood improvements are historically underutilized. And I'm talking about those programs that the city has that are already established, money to help rebuild and help support our neighbors. None of our neighbors, at least in my street, I live next to a business and I have 3 short-term rentals that are on the other side of me, which is completely unheard of. And I can't get answers from anybody. No one should have to live through that. While I am pro-business, I think there is a significant balance that we need to keep to help everyone. Thank you.
And I think we have time for 2 more questions. It is so great, all of this information. I know the students are enjoying it and all the students are proud of all of the candidates. So here are the last 2 questions. The first one is going to be, how would you evolve the vaccine delivery system in San Antonio, but most importantly in your district if you are elected?
These questions are very timely as well. So we will start this question with Mr. Darden.
So I've been reading the questions and a couple of people asked platform questions. So for my first, I guess, platform priority, the first plan is the first 100 days addressing all the COVID issues. So whether it's the vaccine, whether it's PPP, PPE, whether it's workforce, housing, addressing all those issues the first 100 days. But again, the council person can't do it themselves. The council office can't do it themselves. So again, leveraging nonprofits, leveraging the faith-based community, leveraging other organizations, and getting everybody on board to ensure that all areas of the community are being reached. Because one person can't do it, one entity can't do it. And I think that's what happens. We get into these elected capacities and it's all ours, and we exclude people as opposed to including people, and it goes back to inclusion. And so that's how I would address that, the first 100 days. If anybody is to say, well, why not now? Because I'm not the council person. So hopefully we can support the council person in doing that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darden. All right, we'll come over to Ms. Cleaver.
So the biggest thing with COVID-19 vaccines and everything that has to do with it is that you can't do or provide something that you don't have. So right now, the city is really struggling in even getting vaccines. Now, there's different issues of storing vaccines. One of them needs refrigeration. One of them doesn't need much. So it's not just about not giving it or not putting it in an area because they don't want to. Now, of course, we always have to question that as well. But we also have to know the facts behind how the whole thing works. So first, we have to make sure that we are working with other people and other government officials, not just City of San Antonio, but Texas state government and on and so forth, to make sure that we're getting the vaccines and everything that we need. Then we work to make sure that we have mobile sites and using our community centers. Our community centers are key. They are next to everyone that we need in our community, in our neighborhoods. We need to start making those the hub. And so we need to be able to have these open sites and information so people know where to go and how to get things done. But right now, the waiting list, things like that, is a little bit too much anxiety.
Thank you, Ms. Cleaver. Ms. Villanueva.
Thank you. Well, I definitely agree with Ms. Cleaver, and the community centers have not been utilized and they should have. In addition to that, over the last 6 months, I've been reaching out and almost to the point of harassing some of our leaders at the city and county level about mobile vaccines. And I'll need to share a story that was recently published by the national news. Philadelphia and Atlanta are using mobile vaccines to get to our communities that need these the most. And it's important that we touch base with our neighbors. You can't just get them out. I have done personally an investigation because I have found out that so many people that should not be receiving the vaccine, that are under 40 years old and healthy, have been receiving it because of friendships. We need to focus on the neighbors that are in need. There's a vulnerable population with the disabled and with our elderly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villanueva. Mr. Clark.
Yeah, COVID response is something very important, and then so is getting the vaccine. I actually work with the CREC, the Community COVID Response Team. And one of the things that I would like to see done differently is we need to get people trained, more people trained that can actually administer these doses. And the more people that we quickly train to be able to administer, then we're able to actually expand the amount of centers that we can start giving these doses out at. And I agree with Mr. Darden. We have to get the faith-based, we have to get the nonprofits and other businesses that are on the ground that can help with that expansion. But we also have to make sure that we focus also on getting mobile sites, because I like to focus on those that are most vulnerable, which are usually our senior citizens and our disabled citizens who sometimes do not have access to transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Dawkins.
This is actually, hopefully you can hear me. Actually, I think this has become a political issue. It's become a political issue because originally it was not, there was no plan from the federal government as to how to roll this out. Then you get down to the state. The state governor has decided for whatever reason, San Antonio, we can't distribute if we don't have it, okay? And we don't have it. They're giving it to Houston, they're giving it to Dallas, and San Antonio's not getting it. We could probably get it out. I think our mayor and some other people have been doing a good job with what they have, but they're the ones who are clamoring and asking for more vaccines. So even if we had the more vaccines, yeah, we could put it in all these different places, but this has been a political issue that has not been solved, or again, cannot be solved at the local level unless we have the product.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dawkins. Mr. Booker.
First of all, what I would want to make sure of that it is an effective vaccine. What I've learned, we have a program called Black Med Texas, and we have certain things that are catered for African Americans in particular. So I would want to ensure that it works. Based on that, I would like to see the proof in the pudding. And I say proof in the pudding, none of the Spurs are saying they're vaccinated. None of the Dallas Cowboys are saying they're being vaccinated. These are some high profile individuals, they're not being vaccinated. What's going on with that? Secondly, like the city clerk, I would like to see mobile units. She's gone out with the mobile unit going door to door or going from street to street. So I would actually tackle street by street, touch every single one with a mobile unit for those that are interested. If they're not interested, we can at least mark that street off as we've already touched them. Touching the people, talking to them is going to be what is required. We cannot say that we're touching the district if we are not touching every single one. And that's how we do it, person to person.
All right, Mr. McKee Rodriguez.
Yes, so I'm going to be a parrot, but hopefully I could be a pretty one. The East Side has continued to be underserved in this pandemic. A map of San Antonio vaccination shows that an overwhelming majority of vaccines have been distributed on the North Side, despite the overwhelming majority of deaths happening on the Southwest and East Sides. As councilmen, I'll address this disparity by calling for an actual COVID-19 waitlist system that isn't tied to our ability to be by a phone 24/7. The majority of vaccination sites on the East Side are also currently being offered through clinics, health centers, other facilities that the Black community have historically been gatekept from. We need vaccinations administered, like was said, in churches, community, and senior centers. And if supply reaches the threshold, we could even have door-to-door vaccinations. Long-term and short-term solutions are going to be necessary to bring our community back from this pandemic. And it's wise to strategize what our long-term solution will be. Families just need help and aid now. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. McKee Rodriguez. And finally, Ms. Brown.
Well, I think one of the problems is, getting the vaccines is an issue, but also having the manpower to distribute the vaccines. One of the things I think we don't that the people, that have to handle it, disperse it, set it up. They already had like a full-time job. I have a friend that works at University Health. It's like they're trying to do their job. Now they have this thrown on them, but they don't have extra staff to handle this, so they're trying to do it along with what all they're doing. I have been trying to get a flu vaccination drive since November, but because of COVID, because they were saying that the vaccines for the Black community was really, really down, the numbers were down, but I've been trying to get that for months, but because of COVID, that kind of got bumped. It's not priority for them. One of the things we have to do is really get our Black community to accept and be willing to get the vaccine. I have gotten the vaccine. I'm a very young 52-year-old. I know I look really healthy, but I have underlying conditions that qualified me to get it. So we got to encourage them.
Time. Everybody, please don't shoot the messenger or dislike the timekeeper, but I try to keep every body on schedule so that everyone will have the same amount of time. So the last question that is going to be asked of you, the student who asked this question, it's really a one-word answer, or maybe it's a sentence, but they're not asking you how you solve it. And I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds. The question is, what do you feel is the city's most pressing need? Not how you solve it, but what is the city's most pressing need? So I'm assuming by the student's question that this is something, if you're elected, you're going to be laser focused on it, because this is the city's most pressing need, or District 2's most pressing need. So I will turn it over to Judge Rangel. You're good at keeping everybody in order.
Thank you, Judge. All right, Ms. Brown, we're going to give you the opportunity to go first on this one.
You're muted.
I would say it's unity. We're all separate, but we're still all one, and we need to bring that together.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Dawkins.
Attracting businesses. The one reason why we can't get football teams or baseball teams is because we don't have enough businesses that can support that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Booker.
Improving, establishing standards, milestones, timelines, and then improving upon those standards, milestones, and timelines.
Thank you. Ms. Cleaver.
Well, for the city's most pressing need, I feel like bridging the gap. You cannot have DA, police, and all the different people who run our city who don't get along. And that's very hard to have the best interest of the people if the people who run the city can't even communicate. That's the city's biggest thing. The district is to make sure that our District 2 voice is being heard on our boards and our commissions. We have too many empty and wrong seated board and commission seats for us to truly be getting a District 2 voice of how our district should be running.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Villanueva.
Well, that's a tough one. So I'm going to have to say long-term strategic planning and communication.
Thank you. Mr. Clark.
What I say our most pressing issue is, and it's because of the climate that we're in right at this moment, is going to be our COVID-19 recovery. How do we get people recovered from this situation? We're in unprecedented times. We have thousands of families set to be evicted and on the streets. We have CPS bills that are due to skyrocket. We have to figure out, how are we going to, as a city, recover? How are we as a district going to recover and make sure those families are kept protected and safe? Our seniors are not thrown out on the street. And that's what I see as right now our most pressing issue.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McKee Rodriguez.
I would say our most pressing issue right now is poverty and the opportunity gap that has strategically been placed on the east, west, and south sides. Every issue in San Antonio stems from our exploitation. We're just trying to survive, and it feels like right now we don't have the opportunity to, especially when our needs are not placed over the profits of developers and corporations.
Thank you, sir. And finally, Mr. Darden.
Yeah, I tried to put in the chat earlier just in case somebody wanted to steal my thunder. But just equity and resources. I'm 41 years old. I've been in the district for 4 decades, and the same needs have been in our district: infrastructure, development in our housing, economic development, things like that. And when it comes to the city making those investments, they haven't been on a level of equity. So I think that's the biggest thing we need to address, so we can start seeing some growth and seeing some sustainability in that growth here in our communities.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Judge Rangel, thank you for inviting your students and co-hosting with me. It's been awesome. Everyone, you're free to unmute now, and I want you to unmute because I want you to thank all of the candidates with a round of applause for coming here tonight at 6 p.m. So let's give them a round of applause, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is
Everybody.
awesome. So this is what I want all of the candidates to do for me. All of my students have been told that they can get credit if they decide to work on your campaign with you. The reason why I picked District 2 was because there were a lot of candidates. So that gave the students a lot of opportunities to see everyone. So what I want you to do now, all of the candidates, if you will put your information in the chat box, and you will have students who will be contacting you. So I'm hoping that you let them really see the insides of how your campaign is running, because many of them want to be campaign managers. Some of them actually want to be city council members or get involved in politics. And for my class, and I know for Judge Ron Rangel's class, of course, I want them to know the book knowledge, but I want them to see exactly how it works so they can put it into action. So please put your email addresses and your contact information in there. And when my students do come, which I know they will come to work for you, if you would please sign off showing that they've actually worked for you and how you feel about their work, that would be greatly appreciated. And I want all the students to know that every candidate who was a candidate for District 2, and I believe there are 12 of them, all of them were invited to come here to speak to you tonight. And so these candidates showed up to speak with you, and I think they'll be able to tell you that campaigning is hard work and they have to be everywhere at one time. So we're happy that they chose UTSA and campaign and election law. So thank you, guys.
We want to pick their brains.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, I just have to say, you have one of my daughters in your class. And so I'm not going to say your name. I'm just going to give kisses. I love you, baby.
Okay. All right.
Let's give Judge Stephanie Boyd a big round of applause for putting this together and inviting all of us as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Judge.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Professor.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
So